Sup boys, Ruido here with a little different topic this time. I want to discuss MMR deflation this season, as this feels, so far, what I've played, as the hardest season ever. Okay, now we'll be pulling some stats, but I'm just basing this on my feeling, but we'll be pulling some stats, some facts, and try to get to some conclusions and solutions, right? So let's get going. First things, people will say that the game is dead. There's no participation. That's why it's deflated. Okay. First thing, we have 150k characters already. We're only 2 months in. Okay. US. Europe, 170k almost. On this side, we can see we have 150k players that are playing only solo shuffle. We're not counting the other brackets. What about the US? 140k players, a little less. But basically, 300k players are playing shuffle in those two regions, right? And we can see that by the characters as well. People are not, some people are having 2 or 3 characters or even more, but those are usually, higher rated players. The casuals, most of them don't, right? So, the game is active, but let's just compare it to the past seasons. But just remember, we're 2 months in, okay? The War Within Season 3. 158k compared to... So we have 10,000 more characters already 2 months in than at the end of the season, which was 6 months long. What about the War Within Season 2? Even less. What about Season 1? Again, less than Midnight. So Midnight is more popular across the board than the War Within. What about Dragonfly Season 4? 138k. This is 30,000 less characters at the end of the season than now. We are not even in the middle of the season, right? So it's far more popular than the other expansions. Now, the first shuffle season is going to be the most popular season there is, right? So let's check what are the actual stats. 170k. That's at the end of the season. Do you think that by the end of the season we can get 2,000-3,000 more characters? 100%, right? So it's not popularity, it's not, participation problem. First thing. Second thing, deflation between the seasons. This is the problem is it's inconsistent, and this is why the participation will drop. That's the main reason it will drop, because 2.4k, like when I was climbing all my classes to elite sets this season, I did second in the world, so only 2 of us did it so far. 1.8 felt like 2.3 last season, and I know that because I'm the only one that got all the 2.4 classes last season. So I was pushing them all to 2.4, and not just classes but many specs as well. So around 20 specs I did, right? So I know I climbed a lot of times, right? Different specs. So my feeling is not gonna lie, because 1.8 felt like 2.3. So that's based on the feeling, it's around 500 MMR difference, right? But we're gonna pull some stats right now, so to see the actual thing, is it true or is it not, right? So, for example, current highest players are 2.5. Okay, 2.5. Now, what I want you guys to know is we're 2 months in. The season is around 5 months, 5.5. Inflation per month is around less than 100 MMR. So let's say 90. So by the end of the season, we will have around 300 MMR gained. So these guys will be around 2.8. Okay, maybe low 2.8, maybe high, maybe even one guy will be 2.9. By the stats, right? This is how MMR inflation works. So they will be 2.9. Now, let's compare it to other seasons, okay? Without any Blizzard injection. So, the War Within Season 1, which is known to be very deflated season. I played it, this was my first PvP season. and it felt easier to get 2.1 in my first season ever. So I was a kind of a noob, right? I was a noob. It felt easier to get 2.1 than it did now 1.8. And I did it on all specs, DPS specs, in my first season ever, right? So even on the classes that I was bad at, it felt easier than now, after I have some experience playing, right? To get 1.8. So that was 300 rating difference, okay? So we have 3.1k here. By the calculation, this will be 2.8. So this is exactly around 300 difference. Makes sense. What about last season, which was inflated, right? It's inflated. 3.3k, the highest player, the highest of the highest. Big makes it 3.3, you know, these are the best players in the world. The highest of the highest. 3.3 compared to 2.8 we would have here. So again, 500 rating difference, exactly as I said. That's how it feels. These are the stats. Now, what about Dragonflight Season 1, which had the most almost equal players like we have now? How much was the rating there? Okay. 3.6k, over 3.6k, compared to 2.8, which we will have. You know, that's 800 points, boys. 800 points difference. Which means if you were 3k in Dragonflight Season 1, you would be 2 points. You wouldn't even be an elite player. You would be a duelist player. If you were a 3k player in Dragonflight Season 1, you would be a duelist player by the end of the midnight. Does this make any sense? No, it does not. So this is, in my opinion, the biggest problem we have. Rating inconsistency across the seasons. Because if someone says he's a 3k player, but he achieved it in Dragonfly Season 1, it's not the same as if he achieved it in the War Within Season 1, right? He would have to be top pretty much 50 players in the world. But in Dragonfly Season 1, he would have to be probably top 1,000 players in the world. So it's not the same. That's the biggest issue, in my opinion. Now, next thing, guys, I want to show you. So I went to the page 100, which is top 5,000 characters, right? Out of all specs and classes, which is currently 2,000 rating. So top 5,000 characters is 2,000 rating. This can be across all the classes, right? That's really low, right? This is not even duelist. What was top 5,000 characters in Dragonflight Season 1, which pretty much had the same amount of characters. So it's fair, same amount of characters. 2.7. 2.7 is considered high, like high, right? So these guys would be 2k right now. Do you see the big problem here? Okay, one more thing. Distribution of the rating, okay? So, as we can see, top 48 of the PvP player base. We're just talking about PvP player base, since PvP is 5% of the whole player base. You know, this is just PvP player base. If you're above 1.5, you're top 48%. 1.5. This was the, you know, this was the beginner rating, right? For all the beginners. What about duelist rating, right? Duelist was not considered hard either. So if you're a duelist, you're top 1% of the player base. If you're 2.1, top 1%, guys. Now this is dependent on the spec as well. If you're playing something that's not OP right now. For example, let's check Arms Warrior. Arms Warrior is top 1.4% of the player base. Very meta, very strong right now, right? What about the Fury Warrior, which is not meta? For example, I play Fury Warrior and I would be under 0.4% of the player base. On both of the servers, this is both US and EU combined, 40 players only. You see the huge issue we have here. So probably gonna be the same. For example, Havoc is probably gonna be again 40 players. Devour is probably gonna be more popular, stronger. Again 1.4. So same like Arms and Fury. Same for Havoc and Devour. So the problem is inconsistency across the seasons. We need to equalize this across the season. Now, how do we do this? Since the cap, the highest rating has been breached already, which is 3.620, right? It would be logical to put the cap at 3.7. So the best of the best creme de la creme players would be maximum 3.7. The best player in the world could reach maximum of 3.7. And then we remove the weekly inflation of 20 MMR, around 20 MMR, and just, at the start of the season say, release the beasts, let them fight, let them grind rating, let them climb. Why not? People would be more motivated to do it. Participation would increase. People would be happier. People would love the game. If this rating was already achieved, why would it not be allowed to be achieved again? It makes no sense. Except the only players who would want that is the players that, achieved it in a certain season and they can't achieve it anymore. So they don't want other players to achieve it as well, right? So that's the only people who wanna do it, but it's fair. It's fair. Now, there then comes the question for, okay, but if you reach the highest of the highest ratings, for example, you reach 36050, 3.650, sorry, and you could just sit on that rating. But then we come to next solution, MMR or rating decay. For example, like in other games, like League or something, right? If you're a challenger, if you're a master player, and you don't play, you get inactivity decay. Very simple. I don't know how high we would put it. Let's say 50 points. If you don't play in 10 days, you lose 50 points. Very simple. But this I would only implement to the top 1% of the ladder. To the most competitive players. I wouldn't implement this to anyone who's wanna tries to get elite sets, wants to get the duelist, wants to get elite. Why? It's a punishment for these players. But for the top of the top, this is not punishment. This is just incentive to fight and be the best, right? And then queue times would decrease for both, because at the top people wouldn't be sitting on the rating. They would want to queue up the shorter, because the player base at that rating is really low. It's like 200 players, right? Now, we did one good thing this season is we increased the healer rewards. Healers earn tokens, which they were earning before, but they earn a very nice amount of gold as well. So they're earning 2k gold around pretty much, right? That's a very decent amount. You can be earning 50k gold a day just enjoying and playing PvP, the game you love. So I'm really happy with that, and that's why we see, even though we have a lot of players, people mistake that the more players there are, the shorter the queues will be, but that is not true. The more healers there are, the shorter the queues will be, right? It doesn't matter if there's 10,000 players playing or if there's 1 million players playing. It doesn't matter. It's probably gonna be even higher queue if there's 1 million players playing, because DPS is more popular than the healer. So there will be even more DPS and even less healers, right? So the only way to do this is actually to increase the healer participation, and we did that well. So for example, on classes that are not as popular, for example, Shadow Priest, Demolock, Boomy, Augmentation, I've had queues that are around 3 to 5 minutes. Very nice, very enjoyable. no one would complain with 3-minute queue, no one. But on more popular specs, like Arms Warrior, Frost Mage, Unholy DK, whatever, Red Paladin, you could have queues that are 10 plus minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. It's longer, but it's still not as bad as, for example, in the War Within, where we had 15 to 20 minutes queues on most of the classes, because healers were rare. So, we did that good. Now, I do have one more thing I would like to say, and that is, since we already reduced Elite to 2.3, and we have a big gap between Elite and Rank 1 range, like it's a big gap, and at some point inflation will be high again, and there will be 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5 players, right? But 2.3 to 3 plus K is a huge difference. And why would the players between 2.3 and 3K, so even 3K players, they know they're not going to reach rank 1 range, because rank 1 range is just, pretty much tournament players, right? So why would these guys be motivated to play even, So what I would do is I would put another title, maybe a legend, maybe we could rename it, maybe we could, I think we need to put a title at 2.7. 2.7 is where the games start getting hard, like, pretty hard, I would say. Yeah, like you can feel the difference between 2.4 and 2.7 game. Like I was playing 3 specs last season about 2.7, and the difference between 2.4 and 2.7 is huge. It's bigger difference than 1.8 to 2.4. 2.4 to 2.7 is huge difference, and I don't even know how big of a difference it's 3K plus, right? So it's very big difference, and I think these players, need incentive to play as well. So we need another layer between rank 1 and elite, like I don't know, League or Counter-Strike or whatever game has, they have Grandmaster or Challenger and Master. So this should be like a Master 2.7. Okay? Now, so all in all, what I would do, we keep elite sets at 1.8 accessible to most of the players. We do that duelist, we put the weapon enchant, we put the tabards or whatever, right? Again, achievable for most of the players. Elite is lower, so it's more accessible. We get the elite title, we get the glad mount if we farm the wins. Okay. With the MMR inflation. Now, then we get to 2.7. 2.7 gets a new mount recolor and a permanent title. So, for example, 2.3 gets the elite and the gladiator title. Temporary, right? Like usual. But 2.7 is very hard to actually to achieve. It's, most players are not going to achieve it. And they get the permanent title. That's not going to be a rank 1 title, but a new title, maybe something else. We can think of something, right? They get a different variation, color variation of the mount. And then we have the top of the top rank 1 range. They get the rank 1 title, and they get as well a different variation of the mount. Same mount, different recolors, just recolor, or maybe you can edit something on the mount, not a trophy or something stupid like that, flag, no one wants that. Something cool. Like we already have the Dragonflight, we can edit the mounts. Just add the baseline mount for Glad, and okay, boom, you reach this rating, you can add this to the mount. Something cool, some armor, some cool color, some effect, some illusion on the mount, make it more, more flames, more, I don't know, darkness, whatever, more black, more red, whatever, I don't know, right? But something to make it even cooler that you can see, oh shit, so this guy is Glad, this guy is 2.7 guy, and this guy is rank 1. And people would want to achieve these things, right? If Glad is more achievable to, let's say, 5% of the player base, not just rank 1s and people getting boosted, PvP would be alive again. Even though it's not dead, as I've showed you the stats before, but this would make sense. right? We want PvP to be alive. Why would you gatekeep things if you're gonna get, like, you're not gonna get the same reward as they would, because you would get a better reward, you would get the reskin, you would get better armor, you would get better effects, right? You would get better title. So I think gatekeeping is stupid. It will kill the game, but we have just different solutions, right? The last thing I want to say, difference between brackets also should be same, like it was, like I was talking, you know, there's gonna be a cap and boom, release it all. So we don't have these huge differences. Shuffle 2.5, Blitz almost to 3.5, 1,000 rating difference. This is crazy, right? There's already, you know, tension between Blitz and Arena players, right? They say, oh, these guys suck, these guys, you know, and this is because of this, right? So if a Shuffle player at this moment, same moment, can be a 3.4k player as the Blitz can, no problem, right? Why is Shuffle even more deflated than a 3v3, right? Which has 5 times less players, even more than 5 times, right? 2.7 almost in 3v3, so 150 points difference in a bracket that's known to be the hardest, right? It makes zero sense. Now, last thing I want to say, one more inflation info we have. We made Gladiator easier. Everyone was hoping. That is why we have this high participation, higher than all the season we have yet. Look at this, 2.3, right? We reduced it by 100 points. It should have been easier than it is. Currently, we have only 200 players. 200 players. In week 7. By the end of the season, week 22, it's going to be projected, it's going to be 1.6k players, a little bit more. Okay, now that doesn't sound too bad, but let's compare it to other seasons, right? We're looking at 2.4 now, we're not looking at 2.3 now, so it's fair, right? We're comparing 2.3 to 2.4. 2.4 in the War Within. 4,000. So almost 4 times as much players, right? Look at this. Now let's put even Dragonflight, let's put Shadowlands. Shadowlands is known to be the most inflated season ever, but it was the most participated season as well. Season 2, right? Let's check it out. Look at this. Look at this. 8.5k players at the Glad level. Where is Midnight? Midnight is at the bottom of them all. Look at this. So we have 1.6, and the lowest of all the seasons was the War Within season 1, which I was talking about, that it's known to be deflated. And what do we have? 2.2k players. So big difference. Huge difference, right? What do we have here? By the week. So by the week in Shadowlands Season 1, we had over 2,000 players above 2.4. Guys, above 2k players. This is more than by the end of the season. So in week 5, in first month of the Shadowlands Season 1, we had the same amount of people above 2.4 than we will have at the end of the Midnight. This is not how it should be. It should be consistent across all the seasons, okay, to make it fair. So, okay guys, I've been rambling for a long time. Hopefully you understood what I wanted to say. Of course, some of you will disagree, some of you will agree with me. If you have anything to add up, if you have any better solution even, of course, mine is not the best. I was just, you know, relaxing, thought of it, boom, I said, okay, this sounds good to me. Maybe it doesn't to most of people. I'm gonna make a video about it. If you have any better solutions, I'm gonna read them all. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully there's a small 0.01% chance that anyone from the Blizzard sees this, right? Maybe they say, oh shit, this is a good idea. Maybe we could do something like this, you know? So If you have any better ideas, let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.